Imagine an autumn morning where nothing is ordinary. A fallen branch becomes an archway of little suns. Empty bottles turn into a river of glow along the path. Pebbles gather like quiet stars beneath a driftwood bridge, and a thrift teapot learns the language of water again. Out here, the season isn't just a color palette, it's a workshop of small miracles. If you've ever looked at a pinecone and felt it was trying to tell you something, this is your invitation. Stay close. By the end of today, your garden will remember how to dream. Welcome to Archon Aesthetic Studio, where trash becomes treasure and tiny corners learn a bit of fairy magic. If ideas like bottles as borders, driftwood bridges, and foraged lanterns make you smile, hit subscribe and join this weekly series. We post fresh upcycles every week. I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments so we can celebrate your garden season together. One, glowing bottle edge border. Picture a garden path softened by fallen leaves, where ordinary glass bottles have learned a new language. Each one, once forgotten on a shelf or tossed aside, now stands upright in the earth, its frosted skin breathing with quiet light. At dusk, when the day exhales its last warmth, these bottles awaken. A hidden string of LEDs glows amber from within, turning recycled glass into lanterns that guard the edges of your walkway. Their glow does not shout, it whispers, like fireflies caught in a bottle, or distant stars bending closer to earth. Beside them, pine cones scatter like notes of a forest song, and driftwood rests as if it had wandered home. The pathway is no longer just a way through the garden. It becomes an experience, an invitation. Every step is softened by light that costs nothing more than imagination. Every border a reminder that what we discard can learn to shine again. And as night folds around your garden, this glowing edge feels less like decoration, and more like a gentle threshold between the everyday and the enchanted. From here, we step forward into another kind of magic, crafted not by glass, but by branches that arch into lantern-lit constellations. Two, branch and pinecone lantern arch. Imagine a simple arch of branches, woven together as if the forest itself wanted to frame your steps. From its curve, small lanterns dangle, some glass jars, some tin cans reborn, each one cradling a pinecone at its heart. As twilight gathers, these lanterns awaken, scattering flickers of golden light across the path. The branches creak softly in the breeze, and the pinecones, once fallen and forgotten, now glow as tiny constellations suspended just within reach. Walking beneath this arch feels like entering a story. The world beyond is ordinary, but here, framed by wood and light, the air thickens with a kind of reverence. The lanterns sway gently, their glow reflecting in the eyes of anyone who passes, and the garden itself seems to lean closer, holding the moment still. There is something profoundly human in this arch, an instinct to gather, to mark a passage, to create a threshold between the familiar and the magical. And as you step through, the lanterns fall behind like echoes of fireflies, guiding you forward. Just ahead, another vision waits. A driftwood bridge rising over a riverbed of smooth, white stones. Three, Driftwood ferry bridge over a dry Pebble creek. Across the garden, where smooth white stones gather in silence, a bridge of driftwood rises. Its railings curve like the ribs of an ancient tree, weathered by time yet softened by touch. No water flows beneath, only a dry creek of pale pebbles, arranged as if they once carried a forgotten stream. At dusk, tiny lights hidden beneath the planks awaken, washing the stones in a golden shimmer, as though the river had found a way to glow instead of flow. Stepping onto this bridge is not about crossing distance. It is about crossing into story. Driftwood, once carried by tides or left abandoned on a shore, now learns to carry footsteps in a garden. Each creek feels like a memory retold, each knot and curve a sentence carved by the sea. Children see it as a fairy's crossing, while adults recognize it as a fragment of nature reborn in art. The pebbles below catch the light, reflecting it upward, so that the bridge itself seems to hover between earth and sky. In this corner, ordinary wood and stone conspire to hold wonder. And as you step down the other side, the murmur of water calls, not from the creek, but from the next vision. A teapot that whispers with the sound of a fountain. Four, Teapot Trickle Fountain, Upcycled. In a quiet corner of the garden, a teapot has found a second life. Once it poured morning tea, now it pours eternity, each drop tumbling gently over stones, finding its way to a shallow bed of pebbles. The spout glimmers in the autumn light, and the sound it makes is not loud but tender, like a secret whispered into the ear of the earth. Moss softens the stones, catching droplets in emerald cushions, while ferns lean closer as if listening to a song too ancient to forget. There is a poetry in this fountain. Water returned to its wandering, guided by something once considered discard. A thrift teapot, perhaps chipped, perhaps forgotten in a cupboard, now holds the role of storyteller. Every trickle recalls mornings of warmth. Every ripple writes new verses across the garden floor. Children dip fingers into its flow, while adults pause, breathing slower, reminded that beauty often hides in what we nearly throw away. The Teapot Trickle Fountain teaches us that sound can be as healing as sight, that peace can be crafted by hand. And just beyond, light itself waits to play, a shelf of bottles ready to glow with the memory of dried hydrangeas. Five, dried hydrangea plus vintage bottle ledge. Along a garden wall, a ledge of weathered wood extends like a quiet stage. Upon it, vintage bottles gather, each one carrying a faded hydrangea bloom, its petals now soft with time, its color muted into shades of cream and dusk. From behind, a hidden light stirs, pouring amber glow through glass, so the bottles themselves seem to hold fragments of sunset long after the sky has darkened. This shelf is not just storage, it is memory displayed. Every bottle may once have been ordinary, lining cupboards or forgotten in cellars. Now, they stand as vessels of remembrance, framing autumn's delicate silence. The hydrangeas, though dry, still whisper of gardens past, of mornings filled with dew and evenings of gentle rain. The glow makes their silhouettes timeless, as if caught between the living and the eternal. Sitting nearby, one feels both comforted and hushed, as though looking into a candlelit window from a quiet street. It is a reminder that even fragility can be luminous, that endings carry their own kind of radiance. And beyond this glowing ledge, light continues its journey, spilling onto crates that hold herbs and warmth in rustic towers. Six, Rustic Crate Herb Tower. In the corner of the garden, wooden crates stack one upon another, like building blocks of memory. Each crate holds an herb, rosemary with its pine-like breath, thyme whispering of old kitchens, sage exhaling its silvery calm. They spill over the edges, soft green against the rough grain of wood, as if nature had found a way to climb. Wound gently around the tower, a string of amber lights glows as twilight falls. The herbs catch the warmth, leaves shimmering like tiny lanterns themselves. The crates, once destined for storage or firewood, now stand as a rustic sculpture of usefulness and beauty. Here, the act of growing is not hidden in neat beds but raised in tiers, where every glance reminds you of flavor, fragrance, and the generosity of the earth. Sitting nearby, one might pluck a sprig to crush between fingers, letting its aroma rise into the cooling evening air. The tower becomes more than vertical gardening. It is a symbol of abundance arranged with care, a lighted beacon of what can be created with the simplest means. And just beyond, the story continues. An old chair, too tired to be sat upon, transformed into a throne of blooms. Seven, Old Chair Planter Oasis. Once, this chair carried the weight of daily life. Meals shared, conversations held, quiet moments of rest. Now, its wooden frame, worn smooth by years, has been given a gentler role. Where the seat once sagged, a cushion of moss now rises, threaded with sedum and small succulents that spill over the edges like a living tapestry. Each tuft of green feels like breath returned, softening the scars of time. There is something profoundly comforting in this transformation. The chair no longer invites you to sit, but to pause, to look closer. The moss glows in the afternoon light, its surface cool and damp to the touch, while sedum beads sparkle with drops of dew. In its silence, the chair has become an oasis, a reminder that even what seems too old to serve can still cradle new life. It stands as a throne not for people, but for nature itself, proof that beauty often blooms when we stop insisting on usefulness. Step closer, and the garden tells you, nothing is truly finished, only waiting for another story to begin. And just nearby, a row of jars gathers their own story, tiny forests captured in glass, terrariums glowing in corners. Eight, Jar terrarium forest in glass 4 porch corners. In the hush of a porch corner, glass jars become tiny worlds. Within their curved walls, soil layers down like history, moss spreads as a velvet carpet, and ferns rise like trees in miniature. A single twig might stand as a forest spine, a pebble becomes a mountain, and condensation beads upon the glass like morning mist. Looking inside, it feels as if you are peering into an entire woodland, scaled down to rest upon your palm. These terrariums glow softly when sunlight passes through, turning the jars into lanterns of life. The plants thrive in their enclosed shelter, needing little but patience and a touch of care. Once discarded or forgotten, these jars now hold sanctuaries that remind us of resilience and renewal. They speak of how even the smallest space can hold abundance, how a corner can bloom with imagination. To sit beside them is to feel as though you've found a window into another world, a private forest always within reach. And as day slips into evening, the story widens. From glass jars to glowing domes of bottles, propagation stations that guard tomorrow's growth. Nine, Bottle Dome Cloche Station. Along the garden bed, bottles once destined for recycling find their new purpose, guardians of tender life. Turned upside down, their curved glass and plastic shells form domes, sheltering seedlings from frost and wind. Inside, the air warms, moisture gathers, and droplets slide slowly down the walls like tiny rivers. It is a simple transformation, but one that carries the weight of promise, the promise of growth against the season's chill. Each dome is a miniature greenhouse, holding in the breath of the earth, turning scraps into sanctuaries. The seedlings stretch upward, safe beneath their clear guardians, unaware of the frost that lingers just beyond. In the soft light of morning, the domes glisten, scattered across the bed like crystal ornaments laid gently upon the soil. They are beautiful in their humility, reminders that even protection can be crafted from what we overlook. Here, the act of care takes shape not in expense, but in imagination. And as the seedlings strengthen beneath their shelters, another pathway opens in the garden story. The flicker of tin can lanterns, carved with autumn motifs, lighting the path into evening. Tin can leaf cut lantern pathway. Along the path, a row of lanterns begins to glow. They are not carved from glass or forged from metal, but shaped from simple tin cans, once used, once discarded, now pierced with leaf patterns that capture autumn's breath. As the candles within flicker to life, the cutouts cast their shadows across the stones, scattering leaves of light that dance with every breeze. Each lantern holds its own rhythm. Some glow strong, others sway in gentler flame, together weaving a corridor of warmth. Walking between them feels like stepping into a procession, guided not by grand chandeliers but by the humblest vessels reborn. The air grows softer in their glow, and even the sound of footsteps becomes more careful, as though the lanterns ask for reverence. There is a beauty in their imperfections, the uneven cuts, the dents that speak of former use, the way each flame interprets its cage differently. Yet together they tell a single story, that light finds a way, that warmth can be crafted from what we nearly abandoned. And as the lanterns mark the path, the garden whispers onward, toward mirrors and prisms that will catch the sun by day and scatter it like jewels across the fence. Mirror Sunburst plus CD Prism Garland. On the garden fence, sunlight finds a partner. A mirror shaped like a sunburst sits at the center, its rays crafted from reclaimed wood, while a garland of old CDS drapes around it, catching every stray beam. As the day moves, light bends and scatters, painting the fence and ground with shifting patterns. Rainbows sliding across leaves, bursts of color darting like playful birds. The mirror reflects not only the garden but also the sky, bringing fragments of blue and gold into the corner of earth it touches. The CDS, once forgotten in drawers, scratched and silent, now sing again, not with music, but with light. Their prisms shimmer like stained glass made by chance, and in their glow, the garden becomes both theater and temple. Standing nearby, one feels bathed in a kind of accidental grace. The joy of finding beauty in what was abandoned, the delight of seeing light perform its secret dance. Every flicker becomes a reminder that time does not erase value. It only waits for us to see differently. And beyond this prism-lit fence, the story unfolds. A ladder rising, repurposed into a strip of planters climbing toward the sky. Ladder planter strip. Against the garden wall, an old ladder leans, its rungs no longer meant for climbing, but for carrying life upward in a different way. On each step, a pot sits cradled, holding herbs, sedum, or seasonal blooms. Together they rise like verses of a poem, each rung another line of green and color, stacking the earth's abundance toward the sky. The wood of the ladder is weathered, its paint chipped and softened by years of use. Yet that history only deepens the beauty, for it now frames the plants with rustic grace. The herbs spill over gently, their leaves catching light and brushing against one another as if whispering secrets. By night, a lantern at its base sends shadows climbing upward, echoing the plant's own reach. This vertical garden is not about grandeur but intimacy, a reminder that even small spaces can grow tall when given imagination. It teaches that old tools need not retire, but can return with new purpose, bearing harvests of both sight and scent. And just beyond the ladder's reach, the garden shifts again. A tiny nook beneath the rail where bees hum and teacups cradle seeds for birds. Bee window and teacup bird feeder nook under rail. Beneath the wooden rail, a story unfolds in miniature. A circle cut into the wood becomes a bee's window, small yet sacred, offering passage to pollinators who hum like golden threads through the garden. Beside it, porcelain teacups dangle on twine, each one filled with seeds. Birds gather here, their wings flashing like whispers, their songs drifting into the air as if woven into the hum of bees. It is a nook built from tenderness, where the discarded finds purpose. Teacups that once clinked in kitchens now cradle nourishment. Wood once plain now frames a door for life to pass through. Watching bees slip inside, watching sparrows tilt their heads to sip seeds, the rail becomes more than structure. It becomes a threshold where the garden shares itself with its smallest guests. Here, generosity takes form in everyday objects reborn. The rhythm of wings and hums makes this corner feel alive with unseen conversation. A place where nature pauses, accepts, and lingers. And just beyond, the fence shifts again. Ropes woven into panels, textures layered with plants, a screen that feels both rustic and soft. 14. Rope weave privacy panel plus lamb's ear border. In the garden's edge, a screen rises, not from polished stone or heavy steel, but from the simplest of things, rope and wood. The posts stand steady while strands of rope weave back and forth, creating a wall that does not close off but softens, filtering sight like a curtain of Earth's own threads. At the base, a line of lamb's ear plants stretches in silver, their velvety leaves shimmering whenever the sun bends low. The texture of the rope and the softness of the lamb's ear form a dialogue, rough and gentle, strength and tenderness. Together they create privacy without isolation, a boundary that feels less like a wall and more like a lullaby. Bees drift toward the leaves, brushing against their soft fuzz, while the breeze sings low through the woven fibers. This corner becomes a retreat, a place where boundaries exist but remain kind, where enclosure does not mean confinement. To lean against the rope panel and trail a hand across lamb's ear is to remember how simple materials can calm the spirit. And just past this quiet screen, the garden grows playful again. A window with shutters, aged by time, dressed in flowers and ready to frame the view like art. (15) Shuttered faux window with planter box. On the garden wall, a window appears, but no glass lies within its frame. Wooden shutters, weathered by paint that flakes into soft blues and grays, open wide as if to welcome light. Beneath them rests a planter box, spilling over with blooms in shades of rust, cream, and amber. Though it leads to nowhere, the faux window creates an illusion, a view that suggests stories beyond the wall, a threshold into somewhere softer, more timeless. The patina tells of years long gone, of hands that painted and repainted, leaving behind layers like rings of a tree. Yet the flowers make the frame feel alive again, their stems swaying gently as though they belonged to an invisible home within. This is the magic of reinvention, wood that has aged into beauty, reborn not as structure but as poetry. To sit across from it is to feel as though you are looking into memory itself, framed and blooming. A faux window, yes, but what it reveals is no less real. And as its shutters breathe in the evening air, the garden carries us onward, toward garlands of twigs and dried citrus that scent the breeze like autumn's own signature. (16) Twig and dried citrus wreath. On the porch door, a circle of twigs twists together like a nest, its branches knotted and uneven, yet strong in their union. Woven among them are slices of dried orange and lemon, their translucent centers catching the sunlight like stained glass. Each slice glows with warm amber, a quiet fire that does not burn but illuminates. Cinnamon sticks and pine cones rest between, adding whispers of spice and woodland earth to the air. This wreath is not polished or perfect. It carries the rustic honesty of the season. It tells the story of hands that gathered what was near, fallen twigs from the yard, leftover citrus from the kitchen, and shaped them into something celebratory. Each glance at it feels like a reminder that beauty lies not in what we buy, but in what we notice and honor. Guests arriving at the porch see not just decoration, but a welcome, an embrace written in wood and fruit. The wreath lingers with fragrance and light, marking the door as a gateway into warmth. And as its citrus pieces glow in the evening, the garden calls forward once again. This time through a garland of pine cones and branches, strung to scent the air and anchor autumn's quiet magic. "17. Pinecone plus cinnamon branch garland." Strung across a beam, a garland of pine cones and cinnamon branches breathes its fragrance into the autumn air. Each cone, gathered from the ground, still carries the forest within its scales. Each stick of cinnamon whispers spice and warmth, the scent drifting on the breeze like a memory of kitchens and hearths. Twigs bind them together with twine, their uneven shapes forming a rhythm both rustic and kind. The garland sways gently, releasing its perfume whenever the wind passes through. Birds pause to perch upon it, brushing against the cones, while guests who arrive stop for a moment, surprised by how something so simple can feel so complete. The textures invite touch: rough pine, smooth spice bark, brittle twigs, all balanced in one gentle design. It is more than decoration. It is atmosphere woven into form, a reminder that beauty is not only what we see, but also what we breathe. This garland does not demand attention. It lingers quietly, softening the edges of the porch with scent and shadow. And as its fragrance settles into the evening, the garden prepares to sparkle again. Through a path paved with mosaics of bottle caps, each stone alive with color and light. "18. Bottle cap mosaic stepping stones." Beneath the feet, the garden tells a story in color. Stepping stones, once plain and heavy, now gleam with mosaics made from bottle caps pressed into their surface. Each cap, once discarded, finds its place in a new pattern: circles of amber, bursts of red, touches of gold, together creating a pathway that feels both playful and sacred. When the sun falls upon them, the caps shimmer like coins tossed into a wishing well, each step echoing with light and memory. The path winds through moss and leaves, guiding wanderers with its gentle glow. Children skip from stone to stone, drawn by the colors. Adults pause, marveling at how something so humble can become so luminous. The bottle caps, relics of ordinary moments, now serve as fragments of art, pieced together into something larger than themselves. Their imperfections only deepen the charm, scratched, dented, yet glowing still. This pathway becomes a journey not just across the garden, but across time. The past reimagined, the present illuminated. And as the final stone rests beneath the trees, the eye is drawn upward to a chandelier of cans, swaying like blossoms of metal and light above the garden's heart. "19. Tin can chandelier bird feeder." Suspended above the garden, a chandelier spins, not adorned with crystals, but with tin cans, each reborn as a cradle for seeds. The cans sway gently, catching light as they move, scattering flickers of silver and bronze across the ground. Birds arrive, one by one, their wings a flutter of motion, their songs mixing with the soft chime of cans brushing against one another. The whole piece lives in rhythm, kinetic art shaped by wind and hunger alike. Once discarded, these tins now hold life. Their dents and scars only add character, each imperfection telling of a journey before this second purpose. Hung together, they become more than feeders. They become a sculpture that shifts with every breeze, alive with motion and sound. The air around it feels like a stage, where nature and Upcycled collaborate in quiet performance. Watching it, one cannot help but smile at the ingenuity. A chandelier not of grandeur, but of generosity, turning scraps into sustenance, turning waste into wonder. And as the last bird lifts away, the eye is drawn further, toward a lantern reclaimed from the past, carrying seeds and light as a sanctuary in the garden's embrace. '20. Vintage Lantern Bird Sanctuary. In the garden's quiet corner, an old lantern swings gently, its glass no longer lit by flame but by the flutter of wings. Inside, birdseed rests where a candle once burned, a simple gift for sparrows and finches. Beside it, teacups dangle from twine, their delicate rims now cradling seeds instead of tea. The pairing feels like a conversation across time. Metal and porcelain, both once domestic, now serving the wild. The lantern's patina glows with autumn's touch, its edges worn soft by years of use. Each bird that perches upon it becomes part of the design, their feathers catching light as naturally as if they were always meant to be there. The teacups swing in rhythm with the breeze, offering their small banquets with grace. It is a sanctuary crafted not of expense but of imagination, where what once sat forgotten in cupboards now holds life again. To watch it is to see harmony made tangible, objects of human past finding purpose in nature's present. And as the last seeds scatter, the scene flows into another act of renewal. A tower of bottles rising not for beauty alone, but for compost, warmth, and tomorrow's garden bed. '21. Warm Core Compost Bottle Tower. In a quiet corner of the garden, a tower rises, not grand, but humble, formed from stacked bottles. Inside, scraps of kitchen life and autumn leaves begin their silent work, layered in secret. The bottles capture warmth, turning waste into energy, steam curling softly in the cool air. What might have been thrown away now becomes a warm core, feeding tomorrow's soil with quiet determination. This tower is discreet, almost hidden among the beds, yet it hums with unseen life. Microbes stir, earth transforms, and the cycle of decay becomes the rhythm of renewal. The clear walls of the bottles reveal hints of this alchemy. Orange peels, coffee grounds, moss, all dissolving into richness. It is compost not as burden, but as poetry, a vertical shrine to patience, to the unseen labor of the earth. Standing beside it, one feels a kind of gratitude for what we often ignore. For the garden knows, nothing is wasted, everything is food for something else. And as the tower continues its quiet work, the eye is drawn upward once again, to bottles transformed into air, not soil, swaying as macrame hangers cradle greenery by the window's edge. '22. Macrame Bottle Hangers. From the beams above, bottles once plain now sway like jewels in woven cradles. Macrame cords twist and knot around their glass bodies, suspending them in midair as if the plants inside were floating gardens. Sunlight pours through the bottles, turning them into lanterns of green, where ivy trails downward and herbs spill their fragrance on the breeze. Each knot tells of patience, each cord of care, transforming what was once cast aside into something both functional and poetic. The bottles hold soil or water, nurturing their plants, while the macrame turns necessity into art. Together, they soften the window or porch rail, creating a bohemian canopy that sways with the wind. It feels alive, a moving tapestry woven from glass, twine, and leaf. To sit beneath them is to feel the quiet rhythm of growth suspended above, a reminder that beauty need not rest on the ground alone. It can hang, drift, and dance where air and light meet. And as these bottle gardens sway gently, the eye is drawn lower, where another story waits, roots revealed in clear vessels, teaching children and adults alike the wonder of growth made visible. (23) Transparent root view pots. Beneath the soil, a hidden world unfolds, usually unseen, yet essential. Transparent pots bring that mystery into view, turning the garden into both classroom and sanctuary. Through the clear walls, roots stretch downward in pale threads, weaving through soil like rivers across earth. Tiny hairs branch outward, drinking water, holding steady, telling the story of how life anchors itself. Children lean close, their eyes wide, watching growth in real time. Each day reveals a change, roots lengthening, curling, wrapping, finding paths invisible above. Adults too pause, remembering that wonder lives not only in blossoms but in the quiet labor beneath. What was once hidden becomes revelation, teaching patience, resilience, and the beauty of beginnings. These pots are not grand, but their gift is profound. They remind us that every leaf and flower owes its grace to unseen effort below. To watch roots grow is to witness persistence itself. And as the day closes, the roots remain glowing softly in the filtered light, pointing the way toward the garden's next surprise. A whimsical fountain where old teapots spill water like laughter into a gentle cascade. (24) Teapot Cascade Fountain. In a shaded corner of the garden, laughter takes form in water. Vintage teapots, once poured at tables, now tilt and tip in midair, spilling streams from spout to spout. Each vessel catches the flow only to pass it along, a cascade of silver threads that glisten in the afternoon sun. The sound is gentle, like whispers shared between friends, a melody both playful and soothing. The porcelain gleams with age, its cracks and faded patterns telling stories of countless cups once poured. Now, it holds a different kind of hospitality, refreshment for the spirit, delight for the eye. Moss gathers at the fountain's base, drinking from the water's trickle, while ferns stretch toward the coolness it provides. It is whimsy, yes, but also philosophy, reminding us that life's beauty often lies in passing things along, in letting joy flow through us rather than keeping it still. The teapot fountain turns the garden into a parlor of nature, where water is both guest and host. And as its flow ripples outward, the gaze drifts to a new vision. A wall alive with succulents, framed like a painting, where greenery becomes art itself. 25. Framed succulent wall. On the garden wall hangs a frame, but within it there is no canvas, no paint. Instead, the artwork is alive, succulents pressed close together, their rosettes spiraling in greens, purples, and blues. Each plant is a brushstroke of nature, arranged into patterns that shift with time, as the living picture grows and reshapes itself with every season. The frame itself is rustic, its wood aged by rain and sun, yet it serves as the perfect boundary for this tapestry of life. Moss fills the gaps between plants, softening the edges, while trailing succulents spill like brushstrokes escaping the artist's hand. Standing before it, one feels as if the garden has hung its own portrait, a mirror of resilience and quiet artistry. It is a picture that needs no gallery, for its gallery is the open air, its audience the bees and passers-by alike. To witness it is to realize that beauty is not fixed but always becoming, always renewing. And as the succulents bask in the sun, the story of the garden comes full circle, every object, every scrap, every forgotten piece finding its place, transformed into treasure by imagination and care. When autumn leans in, even scraps glow. Tell me which idea is calling your name, and what you'll transform first. If this episode sparked a plan, tap like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who saves junk for rainy day magic. Explore our playlists for bottles, borders, and fairy corners. New chapters arrive every week. Until then, may your garden be warm with light and generous with wonder.